landed on a comet on there, and that's what sparked that of like, you know, humanity actually living inside asteroids and mining the whatever they needed to mine for their ship's fuel or whatever. Yeah.
I remember at one point, you'll think I've changed the subject, but I haven't, thinking that Buffy the Vampire Slayer was the perfect title because it's all in the title. You know, Buffy tells you it's going to be kind of comedic.
Right.
Vampire says supernatural. Slayer says there's going to be action adventure kind of stuff. Now, your guy's called The Martian Detective, which similarly suggests some cross genre. We're on Mars, science fiction, but he's a detective as well.
Yeah.
So it's both, right?
Science
fiction and mystery.
It's a lot of things, actually. The way I think it was, I forget which author this was, but I remember reading something about how, you know, the different types of genres can be mixed together kind of like a stew. You know, and you don't just necessarily want clam chowder is great, but if you add things, if you've got like carrots, anyway, I'm losing my metaphor. Clearly, my point is that with the Martian PI series, you know, I wanted to mix science fiction. Kind of the Western sort of like new frontier type of thing.
Westerns too.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. The new frontier sort of feeling of it all, as well as the kind of like 30 noir, Humphrey Bogart, you know, kind of thing. That's what I was always aiming for. I don't know if I always hit it, but I definitely, that's what I'm aiming for.
So that's, what do you say there? 4 or 5 genres or something? Can you get away with that?
Well, I'm trying to, we'll say, but people are enjoying it.
It's like,
yeah.
Well, that's the test, isn't it? Does that alienate people, or do they love it?
No, I think because I think one kind of lends itself to the other. You know, they're figuring out. It's a new world. It's a completely new world, and all these things can be blended together anyway. Like, okay, so I live in Los Angeles, right?
Right.
There's 100 different little tiny, smaller towns that are made up of different communities, Koreatown, Japantown, all that kind of stuff. I feel like, but that still makes up the entire city of LA. And I feel like that's kind of the same sort of thing that I get with the genre mixings, is that all these different tropes and like things that you would expect to see in a Western showing up in a science fiction type thing, I think is very possible to do. And I've been doing it, I guess. Yeah.
Must be working.
It's working. It's fun. And it's fun. And it's fun to write too, because then I'm not limited necessarily by, you know, just what science fiction has to offer. You know, if it's only going to be robots and technology, great. That's awesome. But I want to do more than that, I guess.
I remember as a kid reading Isaac Asimov's books with the robot detective, the Caves of Steel, and the others.
Yeah.
And those were, I mean, I thought that was radical at the time, that it was mixing science fiction and mystery. But here you're doing it again.
I'm trying anyway.
Yeah, you're doing it very well. Is there another Jim Mead book in the future?
There is. I'm actually working on, this is now book number 8. That's my magic number. I've always wanted to at least get to 8 books. If I wrote 8 books in my life, that was it.
Why 8?
My best friend told me that he thought I would get famous after I hit 8 books.
You better finish that book.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Guess what? I'm trying to finish this one done. But so as long as everything after this is gravy, is kind of how I felt. I feel very accomplished with it. And I'm aiming to have that one out by the end of the year, but we'll see how much rewriting I still have to do.
Cool.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about your podcast, because I love that podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Change in Management, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Tell everyone about that.
Well, this actually comes from the Jim Mead Martian PI series. It's the first book in the series. It's about what I do is I take a chapter and I make it an episode. Each episode ends up being about 20 minutes. I make it into it's basically like, you remember the old radio plays?
Oh, very well.
Yeah. And I never really saw anybody doing those anymore. And I thought, and podcast I felt the perfect format for it. So every week I send out an episode, and I'm up to 15 episodes now, and it's been a lot of fun. Very labor intensive though. I'll warn people that are thinking about it.
I'll bet, because you got music and sound effects. It's a dramatization.
Right. Yeah. I'm doing the voices. I'm doing the production, but I'm also kind of lucky because in my day job, beyond the writing I've been working in radio for the last 20 years now. Right. So I figured, I could, combine that with my writing and hopefully do something fun.
Well, I think it's turned out really well.
Thank you.
At some point, assemble them all as an audiobook, perhaps?
Yeah, exactly. That's the ultimate goal. Whenever that gets done, I'll have it ready for an Audible file for them, and I'll have an audiobook too. So it's an extra bonus as well.
And a great way to get the word out about the book and the series. I think that's completely smart.
Yeah.
And of course, audiobooks and podcasts are doing really well right now. And so why not? What else you got planned in the future?
Oh, gosh. I'm just trying to make it to the end of the week at this point. But, I have thought about writing. This is, I can talk about ideas. If they want to write it, they can write it. But I've always liked the idea of doing a spacefaring version of the Odyssey. Where, because I feel like the length of time, the actual story itself, kind of
20 years in the Odyssey.
Exactly.
Right?
And that could take that long traveling between stars, with the technology we have now anyway. So I feel like that could really lend itself to a spacefaring adventure. And I've always wanted to write that as a series of like a couple books. Yeah.
At least you got 20 years to cover.
Exactly right. Homer got a couple books out of it. So, why can't I?
That sounds great.
Thank you.
This has been a real pleasure. RJ, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you. The pleasure's been mine. I appreciate it.
Just listening to that interview makes me want to go back and reread all of RJ's books. Hey, I got an email this week asking if I had any books coming out anytime soon. Well, yes, thanks for asking. I've got a book coming out in March, a new legal thriller called The Last Chance Lawyer. It's not quite up for pre-order yet, but will be soon, and I'll give you more information about it later. They also asked if I had any plans for more Red Sneaker books on writing, and of course I do, but that too is later on this year. As always, I want to encourage you to like this podcast or give it a good review. If you want to communicate with me for any reason, my email address is wb@williambernhardt.com. Until next time, keep writing. And remember, you can't fail if you refuse to quit.